My name is Terry Galloway, and I'm an artist and an activist. In 2010, I received cochlear implants that allowed me to hear my mother's voice for the first time since I was 9 years old. This video is going to show you 3 different scenarios to help you learn tips and best practices when a domestic violence victim with a disability enters your courtroom seeking protection from a perpetrator or seeking assistance from a domestic violence service provider. These scenarios are hypothetical, but are based on situations that could happen in real life. All of the actors that portray people with disabilities actually have disabilities. We did this because we feel it is important for authenticity and inclusion. There are approximately 61 million adults in the United States that live with a disability. Now, this is about 26% of the population, or 1 in 4 adults. Research shows that people with disabilities experience abuse 2.5 times as often as people without disabilities. Also, they usually experience multiple victimizations, and the abuse lasts for a longer period of time than domestic violence victims without disabilities. For a domestic violence victim with a disability, domestic violence can look like the typical ways you commonly think about abuse. It can include verbal and psychological abuse, physical abuse, unwanted sexual contact, and the cycle of power and control. But there are even more specific ways that abusers target people with disabilities, and these can include neglect, withholding medications, physically harming a service animal, isolating a deaf victim, or limiting communication options, withholding or destroying assistive devices, interfering with transportation, or financially exploiting a victim's disability income. Our first scenario will be about Rebecca Clark, a woman with a TBI, or traumatic brain injury. A traumatic brain injury, or TBI, is defined by the CDC as a disruption in the normal function of the brain that can be caused by a bump, blow, or jolt to the head, or by a penetrating head injury. TBIs can range in severity from mild to severe and can include extended periods of unconsciousness or memory loss. Some people that have TBIs can have difficulty remembering new information. They may also experience confusion or disorientation, agitation, slurred speech, or other unusual behaviors. Rebecca was involved in a car accident that resulted in her having a TBI, and sometimes it can affect her speech, memory, and balance. Rebecca is legally competent and can represent herself in the court without the need of a guardian.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're here on the case of Rebecca Clark versus Kevin Hansen, 2021-4901 FC01. Looks like both Ms. Clark and Mr. Hansen are present, and we're here for a hearing on Ms. Clark's final injunction. An injunction is another word for a court order, sometimes referred to as a restraining order. The first thing I'm going to do is ask the petitioner, in this case, Ms. Clark, specifically what she would like this court to order. In my experience, petitioners are often seeking a no-contact injunction. That is, they want a court order that tells the respondent to have no contact with them and to leave them alone. If I order a no-contact injunction, that means no direct or indirect contact with Ms. Clark, including no telephone, no email, no texting, don't drive by her residence or her place of employment, and don't ask someone else to make contact with her. If you see Ms. Clark in public, you should immediately go the other way. Both of you, please raise your right hands. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I need you to give me a verbal response.
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Clark, is that a yes? For the record, Ms. Clark nodded her head up and down and has indicated yes. For the record, I see Ms. Clark has a disability that impacts her speech, so I might need to ensure that the record captures her statements, and I will repeat them for the record when necessary. Ms. Clark, we're here on your petition, and it's your burden to prove what you have written in your request for a permanent protection order. I'm going to read your petition into the record. Your petition states that Mr. Hansen was your home health care aide and that you became romantically involved, and now he has taken over your finances and keeps you isolated in your home, and now you're at a friend's home because you could not get into a shelter. Ms. Clark, are you asking this court to order a no-contact injunction? For the record, Ms. Clark nodded her head up and down and indicates yes. Ms. Clark, I do have some questions for you. What do you mean that you do not have control over your finances?
Thank you, Judge. I get Social Security disability payments. About 1 year ago, Kevin became my home health aide.
I'm sorry, Ms. Clark, I can't understand what you're saying. Can you repeat that?
Thank you, Judge. I get Social Security disability payments. About 1 year ago, Kevin became my home health aide.
I can help. I usually help Rebecca when it comes to speaking, and I can assist with the communication here. This is all a big misunderstanding, okay? I take really good care of Rebecca, and I have been so worried since she left home. And what she was saying just now is that all of this is just a big mistake.
No.
Mr. Hansen, are you the court-appointed guardian for Ms. Clark? She is fully competent to speak for herself, correct?
Well, I help her with everything she does.
Mr. Hansen, is Ms. Clark under a guardianship?
No. Please listen to me.
Go ahead, Ms. Clark.
Please be patient. I may talk slower and maybe more difficult to understand. But please allow me to speak. If you don't understand, please ask me to repeat myself. I'm fully competent to speak at this hearing and can speak for myself.
I'm so sorry, Ms. Clark. Please take your time. I will ensure that Mr. Hansen will not interrupt you again. Mr. Hansen, let me remind you that you cannot interrupt Ms. Clark. You will have your chance to tell your side of the story later.
This scenario demonstrates both the overreaching of caretakers as well as the danger of silencing a domestic violence victim with a communication disability. It demonstrates the importance that should be placed on the communication preferred by the person with a disability, even if it takes more time. It also shows how important the judge is in making sure that a victim is heard. In our second scenario, James Smith is a deaf man who is a victim of stalking. He has gone to court for his final injunction hearing. There are different levels of deafness or hearing loss. These levels can range from mild hearing loss to moderate hearing loss to severe or profound hearing loss or deafness. James is deaf, and his primary language is American Sign Language. He needs an ASL interpreter to communicate. Where the interpreter is placed in the courtroom is very important, so watch for the placement during the scenario.
Good morning. Our next case will be Smith v. Epstein. I see that Mr. Smith is deaf and that we'll be using American Sign Language interpreters today. Is that correct?
Yes.
Are the interpreters ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Smith, I'm glad you were able to request this reasonable accommodation in advance so that you can communicate in the language that you prefer for this hearing today. It is very important that you understand what happens today in court. We must swear everyone in, including the interpreters. I would like to start with the interpreters. Interpreters, please state your name into the record, and then I'll swear you in.
Good morning, Judge. We have 2 interpreters here for Mr. Smith. We will be switching off approximately every 20 minutes. It should be seamless. The process should not interfere with your proceedings at all. If we need you to slow down, if we need a break, we will just let you know. Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Smith, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I need a verbal response.
Yes.
Thank you. It appears Ms. Epstein did not show up today. Let the record show that Ms. Epstein failed to appear or present a defense today. Ms. Epstein was lawfully served on October 1st, 2020, which is sufficient notice for her to appear. Can the halls be sounded? Any pleadings or papers filed by Ms. Epstein?
Your Honor, no pleadings were filed by Ms. Epstein.
Thank you. The court finds the respondent was properly and lawfully served. It is now 9:15 a.m. Is Ms. Epstein in the courtroom today? Hearing no responses and the halls having been sounded and no legal filings by Ms. Epstein, we will go forward without Ms. Epstein's appearance today. Mr. Smith, we are here for your permanent injunction. I see on the docket that you have e-filed all of your affidavits, pictures, text conversations, and other evidence with this court totaling 8 incidents of unwanted contact with Ms. Epstein. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is there anything else that you want to add, any corrections or additions?
I want her to stop bothering me. She needs to stop.
Based on Ms. Epstein's failure to appear and the record I have in front of me, I am granting a permanent protection order for Mr. Smith. The court has reviewed the petition and makes the finding that the petitioner has met his burden and has proven that 8 incidents of stalking have occurred, and that the petitioner has met all of the requirements of the statute. Mr. Smith, do you understand?
No. What does that mean?
The court will get a copy of the permanent protection order, and you can read it.
No, I don't really understand the legalese. That it isn't clear to me. My first language is American Sign Language.
The order says that Ms. Epstein can have no contact with you ever. She cannot call you, write you, text you, use a third party to reach out to you, no social media, nothing at all. If she contacts you, you need to call the police. She is not allowed to contact you. If she's anywhere near you, you need to call the police. I've got the order right here. Either I can take it paragraph by paragraph, or I can just give it to you. Mr. Smith, if you still have questions after reading the document, please let my clerk know so that we can make sure you understand everything.
In order to have effective communication, 2 interpreters who are qualified to interpret legal matters must be provided in court, and the interpreters must be within the sight lines of the person who is deaf and the speaker. Many deaf people do not fully understand written English. Documents may need to be interpreted using ASL, and complex terminology must be broken down. You need to ensure that all communication is effectively understood by persons with hearing or other disabilities to the same extent as other participants in the court's programs and services. Our last scenario will be about Jane Carr, a woman who uses a wheelchair. Jane has been sexually abused, has limited transportation, and goes to an inaccessible location for domestic violence services and an evaluation.
Afternoon. I'm Violet. Come right on in. How can I help you today?
I'm hurt, I'm scared, and I need help.
Like I said, my name is Violet. I'm an advocate here. I'm going to help you. Please tell me why you came in today.
Before I tell you what happened to me, I want you to know that this place is not accessible. It was very frustrating, and I almost turned around and left.
I'm so sorry that happened to you. I'm glad you didn't leave. I'll tell my executive director what happened to you today. Make sure that doesn't happen to anyone else. Now please tell me what's going on.
Well, I dated Don for about 4 months. Then I told him I didn't want to go out with him anymore. Then he became obsessive. He started showing up every single day at my work and following me everywhere I went. I can't drive myself, so I rely on public transportation with paratransit. He would call up paratransit and cancel my rides. I had no choice but to ride with him in his vehicle, and I was really scared. My friends and family said he looked like the perfect boyfriend, always willing to help, but they didn't know. Because I could not physically stop him, he would touch me sexually whenever he wanted. He would overpower me, and there was nothing I could do. I was afraid to tell anyone because he knew where I lived, where I worked. He had control of my transportation, and others just could not believe that he was not being kind. When I told Don this had to stop, he had this look on his face, and I felt powerless. He would take me out of my chair and tell me he had total control, that he would kill me, and that he could at any time. I believed him, and I was scared. I thought he would kill me or take my chair away and leave me with no way to get help.
Jane, we're going to get you help, and we're going to keep you safe. Let's make a safety plan that takes into account your physical disability. Tell me what accommodations you need, and tell me what's going to make you feel comfortable.
Well, I need to be able to get my transportation to and from work, to be able to visit wherever I'm staying, to have access to my family. I need to be able to get basic necessities. I don't know where to go after this. I need some direction on how to access some services.
In this scenario, we focused on physical accessibility and stereotypes of women with disabilities, sexuality, and consent. It also shows how vulnerable domestic violence victims with physical disabilities can be, and how reliant they are on others for their daily life activities. It's important to remember that a person with a disability can have healthy sexual relationships, but can also be taken advantage of. It's very difficult for a domestic violence victim to get assistance, especially if the abuser takes away their access to transportation. It is also important to remember to ask the person with a disability what accommodations they need at all points in the process. While this scenario did not take place in the courtroom, it is vital for judges and court staff to understand the barriers that exist when a person with a disability tries to get help. Barriers to domestic violence services may discourage the domestic violence victim with disabilities from seeking help from the court system, because he or she will believe the court will have similar accessibility barriers. 3 scenarios that we just showed you give you an introduction to the complexities of accommodating domestic violence victims with disabilities. You need to do an individual assessment of the needs of each domestic violence victim with a disability when they enter the system and continually throughout their time within the system. The court is so important when it comes to stopping violence against people with disabilities. Since society does not recognize violence against people with disabilities as a significant problem, the needs of the victim are often ignored. You have just seen the levels of barriers that could exist for a domestic violence victim with disabilities when they try to access the system of care that we have created. And your capacity with the court system, you can make sure that the barriers to accessing services are addressed and that domestic violence victims with disabilities can stop hiding in the shadows and can have the confidence to get the help they need and stop the abuse that they have experienced. Thank you.